Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Franklin here, and today we got ourselves a brand new viability rankings list from Smogon OU. Now, OU is the format that I use to play Pokemon on Showdown and on Wi Fi because it's technically the more balanced, quote unquote, per se. Obviously, it's a very chaotic meta game right now with everything going on, and this list came out a couple days ago, so I'm posting this video probably like a few days later. But anyways, before we begin, thank you guys so much for all the support. Please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me for free and it helps grow my channel. Let's get right into it. So as I mentioned, I do play OU and I do play a lot of competitive Pokemon on Showdown. Because Wi-Fi battles, oh man, Wi-Fi battles make me sick. But let's get right into it. Let's see what are the top Pokemon and what are the Pokemon that are not that great right now. So they obviously have a OU tiering console. I know a lot of these people already. Shout outs to them for making this. It helps me like help team build and have some pretty cool team ideas. So S rank, Golden Go. I mean, that's no surprise. It's one of the best Pokemon. It has one of the best typings in the game with Steel and Ghost. Has one of the best abilities, which is good as gold. And if you guys don't know what that is, it pretty much is unaffected by status moves. It also, as being a ghost type, it blocks rapid spin and defog, so that means it's hard to get hazards off while this Pokemon's on the field. This Pokemon hits incredibly hard with choice specs. It has a decent speed tier, enough to use a choice scarf. Also has a nasty plot set and a balloon set so that it doesn't get hit by earthquakes. And with Terra typing and terrestrializing into fighting, ghost, steel, I mean, moves are going to be hitting incredibly hard. So I think this Pokemon does deserve to be the S rank. Now they do have an S minus rank, which is very surprising considering I would have probably merged S with S minus, but regardless, Chiwu is probably one of the best breakers in the game. The choice spec set, along with its ability of lowering all Pokemon special defenses by, I believe it's by 0.33, it's not by 0.5, that'd be kind of broken. It just hits hard. I mean, you would think fire and dark is just like not a really good typing because you're exposed to hazards. You're exposed to a lot of weaknesses like ground, water, fighting, rock, pretty much like the common moves you would see in OU. But Chiyu hits incredibly hard. As long as you can get hazards off your side of the field, this Pokemon is always going to put in work. It's probably going to get like 2-3 kills per every battle if you play it correctly. Just hits incredibly hard. Even the non-resistant Pokemon, or the non-resistant Pokemon pretty much get 1-hit KO, 2-hit KO. Resistant Pokemon to fire or dark moves, they're definitely going to get 2-hit KO for sure. It's just incredibly hard. It hits like a truck. Then we have Dragapult, which made its return from Sword and Shield. Ghost and Dragon makes it really good typing. Again, Ghost Pokemon are going to be blessed in this metagame a lot due to the fact that there aren't a lot of resistances. And granted, we do have the new 4 dark Pokemon in the metagame right now, but being a ghost type is a really good thing, especially when you're paired with Dragon. Dragapult, from what I've seen in the metagame so far, usually is a choice banded set, which hits incredibly hard for the sucker punches, and U-turns can cause some momentum shifts for your team, as well as the choice specs. Again, you might have U-turn there as well, but you also have specs Shadow Ball and Draco Meteor, because there are not a lot of fairies in this metagame as well, so you can definitely have the ability to spam Draco Meteors very easily. Then we have Great Tusk. Great Tusk, ground fighting, what more can you say? It's another good offensive typing. It prevents volt switching due to ground or electric immunity. And you also have access to Rapid Spin, so it's one of the very few Pokemon in this metagame that can get rid of hazards for you, but you just got to be careful with Golden Ghost and other ghost types. But even if you do face a ghost type, it also has access to Knockoff, so Knockoff is able to hit those ghost Pokemon and make them think twice before coming in. Also has access to Ice Spinner, which is really cool. It can be a cool tech against Dragonite, which tends to be a pretty potent sweeper late games. And you can also slap a choice scarf on this. It has access to close combat, headlong rush, as I already mentioned, Ice Spinner, a knockoff, and rapid spin. So pretty damn good Pokemon overall, and it's pretty beefy physically defensive wise. Like, this thing is under the sun. If you get its defense stat boosted, whew, man, good luck. Anyways, we're going on to the A+. Annihilate, another ghost type. I mean, Annihilate is just an annoying Pokemon to deal with because, one, it's extremely fat. I mean, if you look at his stats, you might think otherwise, but having a max HP of 424 along with decent special defense makes this Pokemon kind of hard to deal with, especially with Terra typing. If it goes into a water or fairy, you know, it gets even more difficult to deal with. And then if you keep hitting it more enough, you're going to get hit with the Rage Fist, which is yikes. Then you have Chin-Pao. Chin-Pao, Choice Band is like my favorite set to use right now because it just obliterates all the fat stuff in the metagame like Clodsire, Blissey. Even can deal with Corviknight very well, as long as the Corviknight isn't bulked up or had its defenses increased. I mean, having an ability that just lowers the physical defense of all Pokemon, pairing it up with either Swords Dance or Choice Band, yeah, you're in the world of pain. And this Pokemon is incredibly fast too, so its priority moves in Sucker Punch and Ice Shard are going to go off first. So you got to be really careful with dealing with this Pokemon. This Pokemon probably is the reason why Weavile isn't being seen right now. And granted, Weavile also has gotten neutered to death in this metagame because it lost a bunch of its moves. A lot of useful moves that it would have gotten in Sword and Shield. But Chin-Pao is definitely the Mega Weavile we always wanted, essentially. Then we have Cyclizar. Well, there's only two reasons why Cyclizar's here. One is Shed Tail, giving us a free substitute on the switch-in. And two, Regenerator. I mean, pairing this with Regenerator and then having an item that heals or an item that deals with hazards such as Heavy Duty Boots, or you compare it up with the Citrus Berry, which I've been using in hyper-offensive teams. This Pokemon is going to be a catalyst for a lot of hyper-offensive teams out there right now. I mean, just the fact that you can set up a Shed Tail and then get some HP back due to the fact that your ability allows you to do so is kind of insane. I do have a feeling that this might get suspect tested later on once the metagame has settled down a little bit, but we'll see. I think this Pokemon is a must in all hyper offensive teams, so it's the way to go. And speaking of hyper offense, there is Dragonite. So Dragonite has benefited massively with the terrestrializing mechanic. It's able to just change its typing into whatever it wants. It can change into normal type for extreme speed. It can change into fire typing for Fire Punch. Heck, if you want a massive Dragon Claw, you can change it to Dragon. If you want an Iron Head, which seems to be really cool against fairy types, you can go into Terrestrializing Steel and just get the Iron Heads off. So this Pokemon has definitely benefited a lot. Multi-scale with its great bulk means it can definitely take hits very well. And then you got Espathra right here. We already know what this Pokemon's all about. The fact that this Pokemon has Speed Boost, Calm Mind, and Stored Power in its own move pool is just insane. I mean, not really to explain. This Pokemon is kind of a must-have in a lot of hyper-offensive teams if you're able to deal with at least the Steel types and maybe the Dark types, depending on your move pool, whether you have Terra-typing Fighting or Terra-typing Fairy for Dazzling Gleams. You just gotta make sure you get rid of all your hazards, make sure this Pokemon got all its threats out of the way, and it's gonna start sweeping very easily. Like, this Pokemon's ridiculous. Like, I'm surprised they didn't quick ban this right off the bat, but you know, that's just me. I think this Pokemon isn't absurdly broken because we do have other Pokemon that have priority moves, and there's a lot of unaware Pokemon as well. But if the unaware Pokemon allows Stored Power to be like base 300 attack, yeah, watch out. Then we have Iron Valiant. Now, being a fairy and fighting is a kind of an awkward situation in this metagame because there's the introduction of Steel types, and we do have the introduction of a lot of Ghost types, which you would think this Pokemon will have a problem with, but no. This Pokemon is able to put in a lot of work. Me personally, I love the Choice Spec set because it throws people off guard because you would think, oh, well, if I see an Iron Valiant, they're probably going to be using moves like Close Combat and Spirit Break, you know, hitting the physically defensive Pokemon. And sure, this Pokemon will struggle against such Pokemon like Amoonguss and maybe Clodsire, but then you start realizing if it's a Choice Specs, it has access to Psyshock and Shadow Ball, which it can deal with its checks, quote unquote. So, pretty cool mon. Then we have Keen Gambit. I mean, King Gambit with its abilities Supreme Overlord and have access to priority move like Sucker Punch allows this Pokemon to be a late game threat. Like if you are not able to deal with this Pokemon after a +2 Swords Dance and 4 or 5 of your Pokemon already fainted, good luck. Good luck dealing with this. Now it's just a mind game whether or not this Pokemon's going to use Sucker Punch or is going to use a move that you would anticipate it not using. So, yikes. And then we have Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon, one of my favorite Pokemon right now in the metagame. It can be a Dragon Dance Sweeper. It can be a Choice Band. A very rare Choice Scarf because I don't think it needs Choice Scarf. I think Choice Band is one of my favorite sets right now. Having access to Dragon Claws and Crunch, albeit they're not very strong moves. But pairing it with the Choice Band and Under the Sun makes this Pokemon extremely, extremely hard to switch in. I mean, good luck trying to deal with this Pokemon. Of course, you got to worry about Fairy types because this thing is 4 times weak to Fairy. But I think it's very manageable because it also has access to Iron Head. So if you can predict your moves, I would just U-turn, pivot just to get a threat out of the way. But let this Pokemon have its time. It's definitely going to be a menace in OU. Then we have Tinglu as the final one in the A+. Tinglu is a very fat, annoying Pokemon to deal with. I just cannot stand dealing with this Pokemon. There's no way you can one-hit KO it. There's just no way. It has a massive amount of HP. And its ability, man, it's just very hard to have a Pokemon that is able to run through Tinglu. You just cannot imagine it. There's just no way. And this Pokemon's really good. It's one of the few Spikers and Stealth Rockers in the game that you can use. I personally prefer Stealth Rocks, Whirlwind, Ruination, and Earthquake as its main moveset. And then you can also run Terra typing water, so that way it gets rid of the fighting and just pretty much gets rid of the fighting and bug weakness. Then we have the A ranks. I'm not really going to go over much of the A ranks. Corviknight is still a beast as it was in the previous generation. Pretty simple what it does. It's one of the main defoggers in the game, so take advantage of that. Donzelzo is like super mega Toxapex. If Toxapex had a Mega Evolution, this would be the Pokemon. One of the most annoying Pokemon to deal with. Another unaware user in the metagame that just simply sits there and gets fat. This Pokemon right here is one of my favorite defensive Pokemon. Now, albeit I am an offensive player, so I really don't like facing against this Pokemon. The fact that this Pokemon kind of reminds me of Golden Go. It's unaffected by status moves, and it takes less damage from ghost types. That's just insane. Game Freak knew what they were doing with this. So you can have this Pokemon with Salt Cure as its signature move. Salt Cure just basically is like an infestation but on crack. Hits harder with Ghost and Steel Pokemon, which is insane. And then you also have the ability to Iron Defense and Body Press. And you have Recover as well, so this Pokemon isn't dying anytime soon. So yeah, Gilmora's on this list. It's able to get up hazards very, very quickly due to its ability and access to Stealth Rocks. It does have pretty good special attack and decent speed, so you can take advantage of it. Obviously, I use Focus Sash on mines, and you're going to see a lot of this Pokemon on hyper-offensive teams. And so with Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl definitely got massively buffed in this generation as it got access to Parting Shot. It still is going to be the Suicide lead, or I should say the entry lead with Screens. You're also able to get off Parting Shots, Taunts. If you have Spirit Break, you can go for that to deal with other Dark-type Pokemon because you cannot Parting Shot a Dark-type Pokemon due to the fact that's Prankster's nerf. So use a Spirit Break if you need to break other Dark types. Pretty cool. Then you got Iron Treads, which is kind of the same as our boy Great Tusk. Obviously different typings and different move pool. It does have access to Volt Switch, which is pretty cool. You can like get rid of your hazards and then just Volt Switch away if you want. Then we're up with the A-. Not really going to explain more. Amoonguss here is definitely one of the better defensive pivots in the metagame. Grass and Poison allows it to just switch in, and it does have access to Clear Smog, getting rid of potential sweepers. Clodsire is another unaware user, albeit its defense physically isn't that great. It does does its work. It's able to get up hazards as well and throw up toxic. Pretty cool. Garchomp being IA minus is interesting because it does have access to Stealth Rock and Spikes and Dragon Tail and Earthquake, so its role compared to Generation 8 has shifted a little bit. It's being now used as a hazard setter, and it's just phasing Pokemon out. Hatterene. Seen a lot of Hatterene on hyper offensive teams behind screens and substitutes due to the fact it has access to Calm Mind and Stored Power and Draining Kiss, and paired with Leftovers, this Pokemon's pretty annoying to deal with unless you have a Steel type Pokemon or Unaware Pokemon, but you gotta be careful again with Stored Power. Iron Moth. Being fire and poison is kind of awkward because you're definitely susceptible to earthquakes. And this Pokemon actually does have good special attack, and it's in a decent speed tier. Like, it's able to outspeed a lot of the metagame threats. Unless it has access to the sun, allows it to increase its special attack, I don't really see this Pokemon much being a threat compared to its S rank and A plus counterparts. Rotom Wash makes a return here. I believe Rotom Wash is best to use as a defensive pivot as well. It can be the Leftovers physically defensive or special defensive depending on your team's needs. And as well as Choice Scarf Trick is one of my favorite sets right now to use. Simple. It's a lot fun to just cripple a defensive Pokemon. That's one of my favorite moments in playing Pokemon, just crippling a defensive Pokemon in general. Our boy, the starter here, it makes our way into A-. Unaware is just, again, an incredible ability. And this Pokemon's access to Torch Song, which, by the way, it bypasses substitutes, which is really key when you're playing against hyper-offensive team. I think this Pokemon's going to be used a lot more. Maybe it might die down a little bit once Terastallizing might get suspect tested this week. So we shall see. Do love the Ghost and Fire overall. My favorite Terra typing to use on this Pokemon is Fairy. And yeah, just Will-O-Wisp, Slack Off, Torch Song, Hex. That's literally all you need in order to cripple offensive teams. And then we have Volcarona. We all know why Volcarona's here. Fire setup sweeper. Terra typing into grass. GG's. Then we have the B pluses. Don't really have much to say. I'm surprised Torkoal is B plus considering it's a massive staple in Sun teams right now, and Sun teams are very dominant in the metagame with all the new Paradox Pokemon, as well as other chlorophyll Pokemon such as Scovillain, which made their way into the metagame, but obviously Scovillain is more of a niche, and it's not like a metagame staple, but really glad to see Torkoal dominating once again. I always love using Suns. Scizor, we all know Scizor, our water boy right here, has access to Moxie and Aqua Step, so it can be an incredible potent sweeper. Iron Hands hits like a truck after a Swords Dance. Breloom is back. It actually has access to Bulldoze and Trailblaze, so which get Technician boosted. Then we have Baxcalibur, Dragon and Ice, which is unaffected by fire types due to its ability Thermal Exchange, potential sweeper. And then Slowking is here. If you guys wonder why Slowking is in B+, it's because he has access to Chilling Reception, which enables snow weather, and then it's able to switch out. So it's kind of like a teleport, but for snow. Obviously, snow isn't that great in the metagame right now, as sun is the more predominant playstyle right now. But we shall see. Well, I think this Pokemon will get a little more better once a lot of bans start happening. Then we go into the B ranks. I don't really see much here. Ditto's just here just because to avoid all the sweepers, to play against offensive threats. Blissey isn't that great in the metagame because there's a lot of Pokemon hit like a truck, and it cannot really do much against the ghost type Pokemon, so it has to play very carefully. Toxapex being B is interesting. I would expect this Pokemon to be a little bit lower because it definitely got nerfed in regards to it recovering being only 8 PP as well as losing Scald. So I think people have been using this mostly as a T-Spiker. It's one of the few Pokemon that have access to Toxic Spikes. Then we go down to the B-, Gyarados, Hawlucha, Sweepers, Hippowdon. Yeah, Hippowdon definitely gotta be wary of Sun users. Iron Jugulus, not really expecting much from this Pokemon. Then we have Pelipper, so rain teams right now aren't really that great. Sure, they can function under the right conditions, but there's just a lot of rain walls right now. Surprised Tauros Paldea Fire is right here, considering that a team just went #1 on the showdown ladder using this. And I think Tauros Paldea Fire is actually really good defensively. It's able to, one, deal with Chiwu. It's able to deal with Chin Pao. It's able to deal with like the heavy hitters in the metagame. So very surprising that it's actually here. Then we see the C pluses. There's our boy Scovillian, as I just mentioned. Really good in the sun. I love Terra typing into ice and just Terra blasting all the dragon types that think they can switch into this Pokemon. Then you have Pinchurchin, which allows you to get up the electric terrain pretty easily. Masquerade's webs. Then you have Barraskewda and Rain, Iron Thorns. Mostly, I think it's just unfortunate that electric and rock isn't that great right now in the metagame. And then we're going to go to the C ranks. There's our boy Charizard, middle rank to C. Pretty sure his choice specs, solar power in the sun hits like a truck. But unfortunately, being weak to rocks, 4 times to rocks, is kind of sucks. And then looking down the list, I don't really see anybody much crazy here. Low Kicks being here. I mean, Low Kicks is just hits like a truck, but unfortunately defensively doesn't bring anything to the table. You got Screamtail here. I think Screamtail should be higher. I think Screamtail should probably be like a B- Pokemon. It's a fat Pokemon that has the Wish Pass kind of thing. Gives you Protect, Wish, has access to Encore, Thunder Wave. This Pokemon can be annoying to deal with. I do see why. Perhaps maybe Psychic and Fairy isn't that great defensively, because there's a lot of Ghost type Pokemon and Steel type Pokemon in the game. But I think this Pokemon should deserve probably a B- here. Oh, Talonflame. I missed you in Oras. Incredible stuff, what they did to you. And then we're going to go down to the irrelevant Pokemon, quote unquote. Mousehold being here. I know a lot of people are going to get butthurt over Mousehold being here. But the reason why Mousehold is here, and I'm going to end the video right here. Mousehold essentially does have Population Bomb. And it needs to run Wide Lens in order for the 10 hits to work. Unfortunately, if you run into a Pokemon that is carrying Rocky Helmet, you're pretty much losing Mousehold, because it's going to get 16% damage for every hit, or a Pokemon with rough skin like Garchomp. And if you're comparing it with, or combining it, I should say, with Rocky Helmet and rough skin, yeah, you basically did nothing. Mousehold definitely has a good move in Tidy Up, which allows it to increase its speed and attack by 1, and also get rid of hazards. But again, it doesn't really bring a lot to the table on a defensive point of view. It doesn't have the bulk to take hits very well, and it has to take, hazards such as spikes and T-spikes, and once it does, you're just weakening it. I think people have been using it only solely for Population Bomb, but other than that, it doesn't really bring much, and it's very obvious what this Pokemon is going to do. So it should come to the surprise of no one that this Pokemon's in the D rank. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the tier list. This is the first iteration of the tier list. I kind of agree for the majority of the Pokemon. I would like to say that maybe certain Pokemon like Screamtail deserve a little more shine in the sun, if you get what I'm saying. And yeah, that's all there is to this tier list. Go ahead and check it out. I'll have it in the description down below so you guys can talk about it. You can actually have a discussion within the same forum if you have an account. It'd be great if more people contribute their point of view. What do you guys think? What's your favorite Pokemon to use? What Pokemon do you think deserves a higher ranking? Let me know in the comment section down below. It's your boy Franklin signing out. Peace.